Morning to all members of the media, all the media houses represented here, and even those that are watching the press briefing online. Thank you for coming. We meet here today to provide an update on the upcoming ANC Youth League Second National General Council, to launch our discussion documents and to reflect on critical issues that confront young people and the nation at large. The NGC is not a ceremonial event. It is an historic gathering of young people across our structures where we'll debate, reflect, and take bold resolutions. It will make the renewal and repositioning of the Youth League as an uncompromising voice of young people in South Africa and the world in general. The discussion documents we are launching today are designed to provoke thoughts and inspire solutions on the economy, on education, on social transformation, and on the fight for a truly equal society, on immigration and border management. The Youth League believes in the principle of solidarity with the oppressed across the world. However, this solidarity cannot come at the expense of the stability of South Africa. We are clear, only documented immigrants must be permitted in South Africa. Uncontrolled and illegal migration places an unsustainable burden on our communities, on the health system, on education, and most importantly, on the labor market where young South Africans are already struggling to find work. We therefore call on the Department of Home Affairs to pull up their socks. The department must fix inefficiencies and stop corruption in issuing of documents, and act firmly against those who undermine immigration laws. We also call for the strengthening of borders with modern systems and technologies to protect the sovereignty of our country. On food safety and regulation of spaza shops. Our communities across South Africa, especially townships and informal settlements, are facing serious risks due to unregulated spaza shops, and many of those outlets are selling expired, substandard, and sometimes dangerous goods to our people. The ANC Youth League calls for an urgent enforcement of food safety standards and the strict regulation of spaza shops, ensuring that every operator complies with South African laws. Food security and health of our people cannot be compromised in the name of profit. According to South African law, foreign nationals would only be hired for scarce skills. We therefore call for spaza shops, supermarkets, hardware stores should be owned and managed by only South Africans. On youth unemployment and economic participation. The youth unemployment remains the single most urgent crisis in our country. Over 60% of young people are unemployed, which is a ticking bomb if it's left unaddressed. We cannot continue to operate in an economy that is extra active, where South African export raw minerals only and only import finished products at a higher price. The ANC Youth League has been proposing a beneficiation of 70% of our raw materials, as well as the reindustrialization of strategic mineral resources. We further call for export quotas that protect local industries and ensure that South African markets are not flooded with cheap imported product that destroys jobs. If beneficiation, industrialization, and local procurements are implemented decisively, they will unlock thousands of sustainable jobs for young people and develop skills and begin to break the cycle of poverty. On our struggle for economic freedom and the post-bank. The struggle for freedom in our lifetime remains non-negotiable. The Youth League reaffirms its demands for radical economic transformation that gives young people ownership, control, and meaningful participation in the economy. In this regard, the strengthening of the Post Bank is urgent. The Post Bank must become a popular bank that provides affordable financial services, support for youth entrepreneurs, and reduce reliance of exported private banks that have long excluded the poor in South Africa and black in majority. In fact, SASSA and NEFSA's beneficiaries should mainly get their grants and stipends via Postbank. On the transformation of the education system, NEFSA's TVET colleges and the Bella Act. NEFSA's crisis has left too many young people excluded from the accessibility of their education. Corruption and maladministration and weak systems have compromised the future of thousands of students. We demand that government act urgently to reform NEFSA's and create transparency and student-centered funding model that is efficient and free of corruption. Our TVET colleges must shift from the narrative that TVETs should not be regarded as inferior institutions. They must be seen as a center of excellence and that drives skills development. The institute calls for each TVET campus to be resourced and specialized according to industries of needs. SETAs must use their budgets to invest in modern specialization, ensuring that graduates are work-ready and are ready to respond to the economic demands. On the Basic Education Law Amendment Act, that represents a step towards transformation of education. Yet the DA has openly resisted its full implementation. By rejecting the Pillar Act, the DA seeks to maintain the privilege and exclude majority from schools. The Youth League calls out the hypocrisy and harshness and demands that the Act gets implemented fully by its minister. As the ANC Youth League, we cannot remain silent in the face where gender-based violence and the alarming levels of crime in our communities. Too many young people and young women and children continue to suffer at the hands of perpetrators. While many young men are being lost to violence and crime and drugs and gangsterism, we reaffirm our commitment to intensifying campaigns that mobilize communities against gender-based violence, to strengthening partnership with law enforcement, to advocate for harsher measures against perpetrators. At the same time, we believe that government must invest in youth employment as a preventive strategy. On the role of expectation of the newly appointed NYDA leadership, the ANC Youth League once again congratulates the appointed leadership of the National Youth Development Agency, which assumed office on the 1st of August 2025. We extend our best wishes as they embark on the important responsibility of championing the inspiration of young people across the country. The Youth League expects a strong working relationship with the new leadership, one rooted in partnership, accountability, and agency. We urge them to serve with integrity, innovation, and to ensure that young persons are not left behind. On the decisive leadership of the ANC and the ANC Youth League. Our movement and our league requires decisive leadership that puts people first and resists factionalism. The ANC Youth League commits itself to build a youth league that is militant, disciplined, and rooted in the struggles of our people. The future of South Africa cannot be left to indecisive leaders and opportunists. The future of South Africa cannot be left to indecisive leaders or opportunists. We must rebuild the ANC and the ANC Youth League as to be a trusted vehicle of transformation. On the taxi violence, the ANC Youth League has noted and discussed the ongoing violence happening in our country. We call on SATACO to be decisive on keeping the violence. The taxi industry is the initial mode of transport for majority of South Africans, particularly workers and students. Equally, we are concerned about the continuous harassment to providers of e-hailing services by some elements within the taxi industry. This harassment not only affects the economy, but also affects those that depend on the service. But we also call upon the owners of the e-hailing companies to stop employing foreigners and illegal foreigners and employ South Africans to be the full participant and owners of this e-hailing program. On the conduct of the opposition parties in the government of national unity. The establishment of the government of national unity has placed opposition leaders in position of responsibility. However, the conduct has exposed their lack of seriousness and capability. The DA continues to undermine the government's protocols and demonstrates arrogancy in the GNU. Gaten Mackenzie and Bantu Holomisa of Bantustan have embarrassed themselves with recklessness and uninformed statements. These incidences have exposed the critical truth that many of these parties are not prepared to lead South Africa. They are driven by only populism and self-interest. On the national convention, the recent national convention, for the purpose of the national dialogue, excluded meaningful youth participation and representation, reducing young people to spectators in discussing about their own future. We stayed firmly. This cannot happen again. Any genuine national dialogue must put the youth at the center and must produce a clear outcome-based goal that prioritizes the economy, jobs, and the creation of education. Without youth, there is no future. The agenda of the national dialogue will re-emphasize it must be economy, economy, inclusion of the economy, economy. Anything else is a joke. On readiness of the NGC and the fundraising efforts, the ANC Youth League is ready, structures are mobilized, delegates are prepared. The discussion documents are on the table. The NGC will not be an inward-looking gathering. It will be a youth-led national dialogue, a real youth-led national dialogue where the church will cause the next and change decades to come. We also acknowledge the efforts of the Treasurer's Office, which has organized a fundraising business lounge to assist the youth in operation which is operating without a budget, the youth which is operating without a budget. This is bound to an innovative step in proving that once again, that young people can be resourceful and solution-driven. If I get into that, in conclusion, we would like to wish the Scorpion Kings well on our forthcoming Amapiano concert, which will be honoring the legendary Ntate Kefas Semenya this Friday, the 29th of August. We'll be there in attendance, Samkel. Comrades and friends, the NGC is a moment to shape the sphere of the Youth League. It is our platform to hold the movement accountable. We propose radical solutions to ensure that the youth voice is heard loudly and clearly, shaping the future of the country. This NGC sits few months before the ANC NGC. We're not going to the ANC NGC without a mandate from our own branches. And we want to highlight this year that in 81 years, this is the second ANC Youth League historic NGC. Now, when we're saying that we're the best amongst our peers, we're not lying. We are ready to lead. We are ready to fight for economic freedom in our lifetime. We are ready to ensure that the Youth League remains at the forefront of youth struggles. Thank you. Yeah, questions first.
Okay, so this is how we are going to run it. We are going to take questions directed at the statement that the President has just read to us, and then afterwards we are going to take the chairperson of the drafting committee of the NEC of the ANC Youth League to come and present on the discussion documents of the Second National General Council. So I'm going to take a round of questions. I do note your hand, sir. So we are going to start with the gentleman there at the back, and then we are going to come down to the SABC. And then afterwards, there is also a hand up here in front. So we have these three hands for now. And can you please just, is there another mic? Okay, so the mic is already with you. Okay, you can go.
Somlom, President, leadership of the Youth League and the room. Ngicela nivumele ndinibulise. President, Tunes is my name from Welera News, Ecolijos News. President, I just wanted to touch on 3 things that you just spelled now before us. President, when it comes to issue of spaza shop, as you just mentioned, what needs to happen, there's a case that I'm investigating in Dobsonville, and I did share it with some of my colleagues, different media houses, whereby there was a South African woman who was retrenched, and he take his savings. He tried to open a business to able to support his siblings. Now this woman, she was threatened by the neighboring foreigner, Pakistan, spaza shop owner. And as this woman was threatened, it came to my attention by the councillor in the area, which is in Dobsonville. So with that, it was a concern saying these foreigners, where do they get confidence to threaten South Africans who they've got the right to also run the business? And that woman, he also proven that he did comply. And this one that is threatening, he's not even complying, because even traffic officers, they went and then to find out that the same foreigner that is threatening, he's not even complying in terms of the documents. So I want to respond on that one. When it comes to EGPV, President, the country's been talking about this. It seems it's a pandemic that doesn't stop. Who must die for this to stop? Because there was a case in Northwest, even the father, he was even responding on Monday, saying if this perpetrator has been released by the court for whatever reason, he will address that perpetrator himself. Will you blame that father to say that? The last one, when you're talking about the communities that are terrorized, they are being terrorized by those that they think they've got the right to do so. There is a case whereby there's a guy in the Dobsonville who is terrorizing the community, and that community, even when they report to the cop shop, the investigating officers, they are in the pockets of this thug. So what would you say to those police that they find themselves to be in the pockets of those criminals that they are terrorizing the community? Because those police, if they're doing so, people, they're saying that the government is failing to save us. They are looking at the government. They are not blaming those individuals. So what will be your response to that? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes.
Samkele from the SABC. 2 quick questions. President Ramaphosa has been criticized over the past few weeks of lacking proper leadership when it comes to providing solutions to the country's problems that beleague this particular country. What is the Youth League's view of the leadership of your president of the party and of the president of the country? Then secondly, on the issues of the national dialogue, your former member, last I checked, Nompendulo Mkajwa, is part of the Eminent Persons Group with a number of other young people. What have been your engagements with some of these young people who form part of this Eminent Persons Group that is tasked with collating and bringing together this particular national dialogue? Then on the issues of the economic transformation of the country and that the national dialogue should focus on the economy, what are the proposals the Youth League is bringing to the fore on the economic transformation of the country? Because recently you've heard the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Collen Malatjie, speaking about some of the proposals you put forward of beneficiation, saying that there must be a quotas of how much minerals are benefited in the country domestically in order to create jobs, and a lesser number of raw dust being exported into the international markets. What is your thinking on this particular framing of the economic question when it comes to the national dialogue? Thank you.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thanks. My name is Yamtanda Kapa from News 24. I'm going to start with the national dialogue. And were you guys there? Let's start there. Did you attend the convention? Perhaps I may have missed your delegation. Did you have a discussion document that your own proposals? What do you think the convention was supposed to focus on? With regards to the president saying that the health system, education system is overburdened by an uncontrolled number of illegal immigrants. What are you basing that on? Because I think the facts are that the health system and education system has various issues, including shortage of medication with health and shortage of staff. What exactly are you basing this on? And are you not bordering on being xenophobic in your comments? And also, you're saying that Leon Schreiber must pull up his socks. He just arrived. Look, it's been a year, sure, but his predecessor is your own leader. So please, can you explain? Thank you.
Thanks. I don't want to take a second round. So can I take any other hand that's there? Because remember that we still have to get the presentation on the discussion documents, and we will open another set of questions if they are based on the presentation we have received. So we'll take your one more question, and then we'll go to the gentleman there at the back, and then we go to responses.
Okay. You also said, Collen, the future of SA cannot be left to indecisive leaders and opportunists. Please be explicit. Who are you talking about? Thank you.
Oh, thank you. This is Jing Wama from Germiston News, newspaper in East Rand, Ekurhuleni. So we have quite a lot of issues on our side of the world. You're leading in coalition with the EFF Action SA in Ekurhuleni, we know that for sure. And there's an issue of illegal occupations of housing, hijacking buildings in Ekurhuleni, such as Germiston. And recently, I think you saw on the news the breaking news about Faro Park, where people were evicted and put outside because they stay there without paying municipality services. So as the Youth League, and of course, your government is in power in Ekurhuleni with the mayor of Ekurhuleni, of course, he is from the ANC. Do you have a plan in terms of illegal occupations of buildings in Ekurhuleni? If you have information, you can give it to us. And next as well, is the ANC Youth League ready to lead the country? Because there have been a lot of speculations that some of your leaders are tired and they're old. Are you guys ready? Yabo.
Okay, so we're going to take the SG first, and then afterwards the president will come in for the responses.
Thanks, folks, and greetings to the media houses and listeners at home. I'll just take the one point on the SAPC around what would have been our framing of what should be the framing of the national dialogue on the questions of the economy. Look, Samkela, the Youth League has been making propositions as it relates to the economy right from 2011. And we're not going to say it's new ideas that comes with the 26th National Congress. In 2011, the 24th National Executive Committee, together with the Congress itself, took a decision to formulate 7 cardinal pillars which are driving what we call the generational mission of economic freedom. The 26th National Congress reaffirmed that and expanded that. And we've been saying that the battle now for the South African soil is about transforming this economy to work for our people. And we've been very clear making proposition that we must industrialize our critical minerals in order to create industrial capacity or industrial development in South Africa, create economic opportunities and jobs. And that's what we're saying in the National Convention. We're saying we're not going to accept anything that is dragging us to other things that are not talking about transforming this country's economy, including ensuring acceleration of land reform. And that's what we're proposing in the national dialogue. Any national dialogue that does not resolve the land question and the economy is a mere waste of time. Because our historic struggle as Africans and the black people in this country is a struggle against the dispossessions of land and the economy. But participation of our black people who constitute the majority of this country are living in squalor conditions in the informal settlements and in rural areas, in underdeveloped rural areas. And that's why we're saying we're not prepared as the Youth League to listen to anything that does not talk to this question about beneficiating our minerals, industrializing, creating economic opportunities and jobs. That's what we are proposing in the national dialogue. Anything that does not have that, we're not prepared to listen to that. But we're also saying this national dialogue must be civil society-led. You know, political formations, church formations, labor, are civil society organizations. They must be the ones that speak on behalf of the communities, because we as political formations, together with churches, together with labor, we are representing, the pain and the heart, the aspirations of the South African people. So it must be us who are leading this national dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, SG. I think let's first agree that national convention was a tea party of friends. The president was misled, invited to a tea party of friends who meet each other over tea and consolidate each other into a delegation. What informs that? Civil organizations that have got constituencies were not there. Political youth organizations that have got constituencies were not there. Political parties, because how do we test that we've got support? We test you through what you supported for. I'm saying if the Youth League is not there, whether it's EFFD, all of these parties, civil organizations that we are knowing them are not there, even the foundations that represent integrity were not there. Now, obviously, it was clear that it was a platform created by opportunists to try to present that for the past 30 years, the ANC has done nothing for South Africans. It was a right-winger platform, anti-democracy, set up, programmed by people who are obsessed about taking the progressive out of power. That's how we've classified that thing. That's why we're saying that it must be corrected. The real national dialogue must be convened with the right people. Now, I fell on that one, SG, I must make that emphasis. On the issue of what the Minister of Mineral have said, we agree with him. We want from soil to factory. We want to industrialize the economy. We're clear on that one. We're not apologetic. We've been consistent about export quotas. We have not moved from it. And with our new economic conditions and sanctions and all of these problems, you know why it's important that we create economic corridors and beneficiate our minerals here to create enough employment for our youth. And we strongly believe as the Youth League that if we create economic corridors and beneficiate in South Africa, the issue of unemployment will be the thing of the past. On the issue of spaza shops, foreigners doing it, we are aware of that. We've spoken against it. It's lawlessness. We can't have foreigners running around with guns, utilizing gangsters, saying that South Africans, the real owners of this land, must not participate in their own economy. Foreigners, if we go to a stage where foreigners do that, you must know we've reached a level of lawlessness. That's why we agree with the commission that has been set in place to investigate the corruption in the police and everyone that must enforce the law. Because who allows those foreigners to do that? And we'll wait for the outcomes of that, and we're sure it will confirm that. Which includes also the gender-based violence. The reason people end up taking the law into their own hands is because they no longer believe in the system, that the police will protect them anymore. And the moment people no longer believe that police will protect them, they'll take the law into their own hands. And we can afford as a country, as a young democracy, that we have lawlessness in this country. It will cause anarchy into the country. What do we mean when we say we want decisive leadership? We're clear. We want President Ramaphosa to decisively fire all ministers that are not implementing resolutions. We want the ANC to decisively remove all mayors, anybody else who's deployed by the African National Congress on behalf of the people of South Africa. They must be held accountable why there's no service delivery, why there's no implementations of resolutions, why there's chaos in this country. Now we're saying President Ramaphosa must be decisively and fire them. That's what we mean when we say that we want decisive leadership who acts on people that are not implementing. We've agreed in the past that every Tuesday we'll hold them accountable here in our offices. We've started the process of doing that, and we'll be working together closely with the president, also putting him also under pressure. That the president will no longer have the luxury of time. We urgently need to regain the confidence of our people. And the only way to regain the confidence of our people is to implement what we've promised them, which is a better life for all. Now, that one is very urgent, which we mean that must happen urgently. We can't say there's a new Minister of Home Affairs. When good things are happening that the ANC government have done, they claim them as theirs. The issue of basic education, we know that the pit toilets and everything were removed by a minister of the ANC. But Mam Njimutseho can stand up and say, no, those things were done by me. When there's a new minister, he takes responsibility of everything, the good and the bad. Now we're saying the Minister of Home Affairs must urgently take responsibility and fight against the corruption that is happening at Home Affairs. It's a known corruption. I wonder what is happening at Jimmy State Home Affairs now that they're spent down. I'm sure the corruption is now at steroids, because now there's no longer systems. People are given IDs behind the booths outside parking lots. Now I can imagine if corruption happens in buildings, what will happen in parking lots? It's even worse. I'm sure there are new Nigerians now who are South Africans since the burning of Jimmy State. Now that corruption must be resolved urgently. We can allow that corruption to happen, including the hijacking of buildings. We can accept that towns like Bosberg, Germiston, Johannesburg, foreigners just hijack buildings and nothing happens. Now we're saying that the law must be enforced. In the middle of all of these problems we're faced with, on top of all the problems we're faced with youth unemployment and the disaster we're faced with, on the center of our main problems is the lack of law enforcement. Now when the law can be enforced, some of the issues can be resolved and we'll be able to answer them. On the issue of the research, whether the health system or the education system of illegal foreigners are heavy on them, it's evident. If you stay in South Africa and you go to a public service, you'll know that foreigners, illegal foreigners are heavy on our health system. And due to our human rights commissions, you can't chase out people when they are sick, it's inhuman. But they are heavy on the system. They are heavy on because we budget for people who have counted in this country. If you have counted 64 million people and you are saying 20 million people are school-going people, you budget for those people, and the infrastructure budget is on those bases. Now, if there's someone who enters illegally, that person is heavy on the infrastructure because it's not budgeted for. But we're saying that more must be done. I agree with you. More must be done. We need to invest more on the health system. It's in some areas it's collapsing. We need to build more schools. We've seen a video not long ago going rounds of young people who are still crossing rivers, going to schools. It can happen in 31 years later in South Africa. Those are issues that must be resolved. It can't be that 31 years later in democracy, we still have young people who walk kilometers crossing dams in danger to access education. Now, we're saying those are things that must be resolved on urgent basis. And if not resolved, it will cause problems for all of us South Africans. The issue of a young lady who was in the Fees Must Fall, there's nothing wrong with a young lady being deployed. We're not saying there's a problem with them. We say one more. We're not anti-youth being deployed. She's a young lady who was excelling also in Parliament. We believe that she can contribute also on this dialogue. She's a young lady who has got a stature of a person who can contribute to that. We're going to convene her to also come and brief us. There's also another young person there who's got a planet named after. It's a young person of the Siyakusa, a young person of the movement. We embrace them. But we're saying that all decision-making bodies in South Africa must reflect the demographics of this country, which is youth in majority. We're saying the task teams that are set in place to plan these things must be root reflective. If you are taking only 0.1% and say it's youth and make them the faces, and what they do, these old people, we put young people there so they are communicators of bad news. What they do, they sit back. You'll see very soon, Nompendulo, all the bad things that happen, they're putting Nompendulo as a face of the national dialogue. When things go good, they put all people as a face of the good things. The bad things is Nompendulo, the good things is the old people. Now those things, we're watching them, they want to use the young girl unnecessarily. We're behind there, we're watching her closely, we'll be coaching her close that don't be a communicator of bad news. Be a communicator of good news because the future of the country belongs to the youth. Thanks.